Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased, except ours. It's me again, all alone, forgotten, coming back to you today with a new kind of ish video. So I've been seeing a lot of these videos in my recommended lately, and I've seen them over the years. You know, if Smash Bros. Reboot, if you had to cut the roster in half, who would you do it? Who would you keep? Who would you cut? And like I said, I've been seeing a lot of these videos lately in my recommended, so I figured I would take a crack at it. And what's going to make my list probably different than other people's lists that actually play video games besides Smash Bros. A lot of people who make these lists don't play games outside of Smash Bros. So their views on who's popular and who to keep tends to be revolved around the Smash community, not people who play games outside of it. Because I believe it's more important to try to attract people who aren't hyper competitive, aren't hyper obsessed with this game, to increase people playing it. Because a lot of people who play it are more casual, right? They don't care about, for example, Roy. Like, oh, Roy's finally back. I mean, they don't care about Roy. They want to see, the big names, and that's also what I think is the appeal about Smash Bros. Having this big fighting game crossover, you want to see your favorite characters, popular characters fighting each other. Obviously, different movesets are a plus, but I think star power and seeing your favorite video game franchise represented is more important. So, we're gonna start with we try to go by we're gonna try to trim it down. Try to go by like big characters first, and try to trim it down, and make some cuts along the way. So first, Mario, Luigi. I not just especially Mario, the biggest video game character ever, not just Nintendo character. I mean, in the world, I can't imagine any crossover not having Mario. And Luigi too. He's player two. He's the second fiddle, but still Luigi's very popular. You gotta have Luigi. I mean, you don't have to, but you're going to have Luigi, especially if a roster this big. I don't have to justify this. Donkey Kong. One of Nintendo's biggest, earliest stars. Again, very popular. People love that. Everyone knows Donkey. Like, it's on like Donkey Kong. Everyone loves Donkey Kong. Very easy to keep and justify. Bowser, another easy character to keep and justify. I mean, he's, arguably the biggest video game villain in the world. I can't imagine you'd ever cut Bowser. Link, again, if you're going to have a Zelda character, you're going to have Link. I mean, a lot of these characters, I don't think you spend too much time justifying. When you think of Nintendo's biggest characters, the ones they promote and all that stuff, you're going to have these guys. So Link, Samus, again, face of her own, invented a whole genre of games. Pretty easy to justify keeping around. Kirby, again, another character, very popular, has this big series you're going to keep around. Pikachu, face of Pokemon, mascot of Pokemon. Again, you're going to keep Pikachu around. So these characters here are probably the ones I would say 100% without a doubt you would have in a game for a Nintendo crossover. I know a lot of the next couple of characters I'm picking are probably seem obvious too, but I feel these characters here are just... I mean, maybe not Pikachu, but these characters here you are going to 100% have in the game. You would fight to have these guys in your game. So now more the second tier characters that you're going to keep. Princess Peach, obvious. I have a hard time imagining you wouldn't bring Princess Peach back into a game, Very, very popular character. I should have organized this list, but I think Inkling 2. Nintendo's biggest series, you see Inkling promoted, or Splatoon promoted all the time. You're probably going to see Inkling in a crossover game now. All of them are too. I know the games aren't as popular, aren't that as many games, but you constantly see Nintendo try to promote Pikmin a lot, so I think you would safe bet to have Olimar in the game. So another Pokemon character that I think is an absolute must is Charizard. He is, I think it's pretty safe to say, probably the second most popular Pokemon character, maybe after Pikachu or whoever is the flavor of the month Pokemon character that tends to win those polls. Charizard, because this is what I was referring to before, where like Smash fans don't play other games. They seem to think Charizard is not that popular, which I think is very mind-boggling because anybody who plays Pokemon or is familiar with it, watch the anime, knows how popular Charizard is. I can't imagine if you're going to have a second Pokemon character, besides putting maybe a current-gen Pokemon, you would probably put Charizard. He's a safe bet to put. He's always in every single spinoff, every promotional material. Charizard's always there. You're going to put Charizard in a crossover fighting game if you had to pick a character. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'm going to cut it down to 42 because so every character has a fighter number except for Echoes. It goes up to 82. I'm not counting Echoes as their own thing because it doesn't make sense. Like, for example, let's see, Dark Pit, right? Dark Pit is not the same as Pac-Man. The Dark Pit's basically a skin of, besides literally looking the same, but he's an exact copy of Pit except for some like move different, plug in different numbers in the code, and his moves work differently. But it's exactly the same as Pit. You're not going to say he's the same as cutting, say, Pac-Man. It's very different. Cutting an Echo characters essentially just skins. You don't need to. I think it's cheating if you were to cut an Echo character over someone like Pac-Man because it's just not the same, and you can't honestly say it is. Also, Pyra and Mithra, they're two characters, not one. That's the whole gimmick, 2-in-1 characters. Same thing with Pokemon Trainer. You can't say I'm keeping Pokemon Trainer and say you're keeping all three, Squirtle, Ivysaur, Charizard. They count as 3 separate characters. That's cheating if you try to argue otherwise. That out of the way, because I just realized I didn't explain the reason for my madness, why I'm keeping 42. So another popular character, Yoshi. Again, Mario characters are very easy to add. I mean, they're in so many games, so popular, people love them. It's how could you justify not bringing some Mario characters in? I think honestly, you probably could have a whole game of just Mario characters fighting each other, and it'd be almost as popular. That being said, I'll also bring back Wario. You're not as popular as characters to come up, but Wario appears in every spin-off, has his own set of games. They're still popular, still ongoing, so easy to keep Wario. So, talk about some characters I'd be cutting. Dr. Mario right off the bat, easy cut. It's kind of hard to justify keeping Mario, or Dr. Mario, especially when Mario exists. I mean, he could just be a skin of Mario. There's no reason to justify, Dr. Mario as his own skin. I know his moves are becoming more and more different, but I just don't think it's worth the effort of keeping a Dr. Mario. I don't really like so many alternate versions of characters. I know it's a staple of fighting games, but personally, I don't like it. And if I could, I'd rather keep unique characters over, non-unique characters. I'd rather keep, Dr. Mario over, or I'd rather cut Dr. Mario over Olimar. Like Olimar, I don't care he's not as popular as Dr. Mario. I'd prefer Olimar, a unique character from a unique series of games. So next on the chopping block would be Young Link. I think that's another easy one. He basically already got replaced by Toon Link anyway, so he only came back because everyone is here. Otherwise, I mean, he's already been replaced by another character, so no reason keeping him around. Another character, Pichu. Yeah, a lot of melee characters are going to be cut. There's no reason to keep Pichu. He was a joke character, again, only brought back because of everyone is here. It's not that I don't like joke characters, I don't think they picked the best characters to make jokes out of. Like, I don't really care for Pichu. So other characters, Duck Hunt is a fine retro pick. I just vastly prefer other retro characters, which you will see down the road. But he's because the other retro characters kind of pull from bigger topics. I mean, he's basically just like the Light Gun series of games, which weren't all that popular. I know Duck Hunt sold a lot, but that was because it was packed in with the NES and Super Mario Bros. Doesn't really count. So. Definitely cutting Zero Suit Samus as well. I never understood why she was added, especially when you put in context at the time. This was, say the Brawl roster was finalized in 05, 06. Why would you bring in Zero Suit Samus? I know there was that segment in Zero Mission, which came out in 04, but I just find it very hard to sell playing as Samus without her power armor. It was one sequence in one game. At the end of the game, barely plays the whole point of the sequence that you're powerless. Why would you make a character where the whole point is you're not supposed to play as her? That's the point. And especially too, where all we had was Samus. You could have added Ridley, could have even added Dark Samus, but they gave us Zero Suit Samus, and it was honestly one of the worst additions in my opinion. Because some of these characters here that are getting cut, joke character, easy clone for Melee, to pad out the roster. This is just, I think, completely absurd why they would ever add Zero Suit Samus. Just one of the worst characters, in my opinion, ever added to the game. So another easy cut would be Ice Climbers. Looking back, I always found out how odd it was that they were added. I know their gimmick is that, they're controlling two characters, which I don't really think they do a good job of selling, but if people have ever played Ice Climber, I remember I've played, I think, in the Brawl, what was that called, Masterpieces, or somewhere. I've played Ice Climber, and I remember just like, this is it? Like, this is the game they pulled from people who have fond memories over? I don't know, it's just very, very odd. I don't know why I don't know, because some other games Sakura was considered as like Excitebike, which I think is a little more popular, had some sequels. But Ice Climber, it's like I can't imagine, I can't believe they pulled from that. So, going back to characters that I would add, yeah, Echoes. Another character I forgot to add before was Villager. I'm adding him over because I'm going to cut Isabelle. I know people often pick Isabelle, but I don't really consider Isabelle the face of Animal Crossing. Plus, I know people are also fans of Avatar characters, but I don't know, I like the idea of, you play as the Villager. The Animal Crossing characters are so, like, innocent, it's kind of hard to see Isabelle beating people up as much as Villager. Plus, I don't agree with Isabelle as the face of Animal Crossing either. To me, it's Tom Nook. I've played since the first one. And, I don't know, Tom Nook's one of my favorite NPCs in the game, and I think he's an incredibly underrated character. People always talk about he's this evil landlord and he's trying to steal your money. It's just absolute nonsense. Anybody with like a functional brain realizes Tom Nook is one of the nicest characters in the game. Housing you, giving you a job, interest-free loan. I mean, can you imagine an interest-free loan? God, I would kill for that. So, I will not take this Tom Nook slander, not in my video, not on my channel. So yeah, I don't really consider Isabelle. At best, she's the co-face with Tom Nook, but because people who say that, again, are Smash fans. Their only exposure to Animal Crossing is through Smash Bros. So they will say, oh, Isabelle's the face of Animal Crossing because she's in Smash Bros. And she was the face in New Leaf, but if you look at New Horizons, they're kind of co-stars, the co-faces of it. Isabelle's still popular from New Leaf, but Tom Nook is on more stuff. I mean, he's more prominent, so to sit there and say it's just the Isabelle show is ignorant, to say the least. So another characters that I would add, or try to add more and more popular characters to kind of pad out, King Dedede. I love King Dedede, such a goofy character, but Kirby has, they're actually, I'm just add Meta Knight while I'm at it. They've got the trio, Kirby, Meta Knight, King Dedede. They appear in basically every game. Everyone loves them. They're always, at least one of them is playable in most of their appearances, if not both. People might say Kirby doesn't need 3 characters, but these aren't just, it's not just also the Kirby series. The fact these characters are going to be appearing in every Kirby game down the road. That's, in my opinion, why more the characters they should target. Characters are going to be appearing in every single game. Because, like, I'm going to call out the Fire Emblem characters. They don't appear in every game. They appear in one game, and it's fine they have their fans, but I tend to prefer characters that you're going to see again versus just... Because I feel like that dates the roster. Having these characters appear once and you never see again. I don't like it. I feel it's not very forward-thinking. Another character I would keep is Star Fox. I know he hasn't had a lot of games lately, but he still has his fans. He still has his place in history. I mean, he's, again, a lesser icon, but I still think he's worth keeping the Star Fox series around. Excuse me. But that being said, I'm going to cut Falco and Wolf. It's already a small series that, only really justifies one character. You really don't need 2 other characters with very similar movesets. I know you say, well, they're not exactly the same. There are differences. Yes, there are differences, but they have the same overall similar-looking movesets, and they could just be skins of Fox. There's no real reason to justify them being their own characters. So, next on the list of keeping, smaller Nintendo franchises, I would keep Pit. I know he's not, as big as other characters or other franchises. He's, had his revival, and, people thought maybe he would have his own series again, but he really hasn't appeared again, and I doubt he really ever will. He's more of a retro pick, I would say more than anything, because I know, like I said, I know he got the revival with Sakurai, and he got tons of love in the 3DS and Wii U games, but hasn't appeared in the game since, and I doubt he'll ever appear again, in all honesty. Maybe once every 20 years or so, like Star Fox, but lesser so than Star Fox. Like, no one's gonna be banging on the door to make a Kid Icarus game, because, like, what's that? There's only 3 games. So, but I still think it's worth keeping him around. Because, again, I want to represent, just have, like, obviously you could justify having other characters over Pit, but I want to represent a lot of different series and characters to really, make it the crossover appeal. So next 2 that I would keep is Princess Zoraldo. That also means I'm cutting Sheik. Princess Zelda, she's, again, named after the series, appears in basically every Zelda game, except for Link's Awakening. Probably a few other ones I'm forgetting, but again, appears in every game. Very popular character. She's even getting her own game later this year, so. And also the Zelda series is huge. I think you can justify having a non-playable princess in the game. That being said, too, let's just bring in Ganondorf to save some time. Again, he's the main villain in basically every game now. They're the 3 pieces of they're the 3 components of the Triforce. Also you can, Zelda sells like gangbusters. Very easy to justify having 3 characters. Should have more, but that's, they don't really have a lot of characters to pull from besides these 3. I mean, the entire roster are just variations of these 3. And I'm going to cut Sheik. I mean, she was brought in, as a 2-in-1 character in Melee, got separated in Smash for the 3DS. And I don't really care for the ninja gimmick on Sheik. I mean, people say move it to Impa, but Impa doesn't even appear in that many games either. I think the Zelda series is just, you really got these 3. It's unfortunate, but I don't really see it. 3 are the better characters to keep. So Sheik gets the axe, especially since they lost the transformation gimmick. So again, these are smaller characters I want to keep, but I want to keep Little Mac as well. He's kind of in the same boat as Pip, although Little Mac has more games. Not that popular of games, not that popular of a character, but I think he has a fun, unique enough moveset, and he's not terribly retro. Like I Cut Ice Climbers, they appeared in one game. Duck Hunt really only appears in one game. Little Mac's had some appearances over the years, and like I said, I think he's fun enough to keep around. And the one retro character I will be keeping, at least as of right now, is Mr. Game & Watch. He definitely make him feel old with his, his horrible run animation where it's like so stilted. But that's the appeal of it. He's this 2D character playing in a 3D game. And, he represents the Game & Watch series from the 80s, which predates, all the Nintendo consoles. It's almost how they got their start in the console market, so I like that little reference with him. I know he's not as popular or a character compared to other characters, but I don't know. I think he's easily my favorite retro character. I feel like as they've gone on, they're kind of digging more in the bottom of the barrel for retro characters, so they don't seem to be as fun or as unique as Mr. Game & Watch. That being said, the other retro characters that Cut Ice Climbers, Duck Hunt, I think that's everybody. Besides Rob, which we'll get to later. Gotta finish that too. So, other characters to keep, I guess now pulling from more popular series again. I want to keep the Pokemon trainer. I like his gimmick of switching Pokemon. Where is he? Yeah, right there. I like the gimmick. I can't say I love Squirtle or Ivysaur. I'd be open to swapping these 2 out, but I like the gimmick of controlling 3 Pokemon at once. Yeah, different stages, could be different starters. You could have, instead of Ivysaur, you could have Sceptile, instead of, because I know he's a popular one, mainly because of Mystery Dungeon, but you could have, not Sceptile, Grovyle, that's what I was thinking of, and Ash's Grovyle. And instead of Squirtle, maybe you would have, Totodile, just a different starter. They don't have to all be from the same gen. And instead of Pokemon Trainer, it could be, Red, Gold, whatever, I forget all their names, but you could have different trainers as well to kind of help represent the different gens. But I do like the gimmick of controlling 3 Pokemon. So I know it's a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon as of right now, but I think it's worth keeping the gimmick. That being said, some Pokemon are going to have to go because we don't have too many Pokemon in the game, and that means I'm going to cut Jigglypuff. I know people tend to resist cutting an original 12 character, but she's been almost cut in every game except for Melee, so she's continuing on the chopping block because she was brought in because she was popular in the anime back in 98, 99 when the game came out. Not really popular anymore, which is kind of the point I made before. We're trying to be a little more forward thinking with the characters. I want to pick characters that are going to be around for a long time. I don't want to have these characters feel like flavor of the month. So Jigglypuff is going to get the axe. Also Incineroar. He has I know he's brought in because of his unique moveset, but I just don't think he has the staying power. I think he's, again, more of a flavor of the month kind of pick. So I don't really want to keep him around. Also going to chop down on Mewtwo as well. Again, picking on the Smash fans, they say, oh, Mewtwo's super popular. And he is popular, but you're going to say he's more popular than Charizard? You're out of your mind if you think that. If you legitimately think that. Charizard, is dominates Mewtwo every poll. Charizard gets tons of more love, tons of more special attention. I know if you're a Gen 1er, all you care about is Mewtwo, but if you actually play more than Gen 1, you'd realize Mewtwo's not that great, not that special. Charizard definitely has a more prominent role in games and tons of spin-off. There's always something Charizard related. Mewtwo not as much. That also means, I guess we'll get to this, we're going to cut Lucario as well. It came down to Lucario and Greninja, but I'm more inclined to keep Greninja because I think Sakurai likes the Ninja moveset, so you can kind of move it onto Greninja. But also, I know people say he won that poll, but he doesn't win every poll. Greninja is popular and he got tons of love in that Gen 6 anime. He got his own special form. So he did get lots of love. I think he'll be popular for a very long time. It'll probably wane over time, but I think it'll be enough where you won't say he's it's made a mistake keeping him over, say, Mewtwo or Lucario. I think Greninja's probably the right pick. Mewtwo always felt like a weird pick, and I don't really think you can justify keeping him, at least over these guys. We can't justify him over Charizard. Maybe you could argue over Greninja, but Charizard belongs in way more than Mewtwo. So going back to, I guess, cutting down to a few more characters. Where is that guy? Piranha Plant. Another easy cut. Joke character of people are saying, oh, it's the first time what's it called, a common enemy was playable, which, cool, I guess, but that's not going to save him. I'm not really a big fan of joke characters. It is what it is, but you really need to keep Piranha Plant over. I already cut more popular characters. You really keep Piranha Plant over any one of these guys, or some of these guys down here. Absolutely not. At least no sane person would. That being said, too, to round off the Mario cast, I'm going to, Palutena, Rosalina on the chopping block. She's going to get cut. I know, because again, this is where I talk about characters aren't forward-thinking. I know Sakurai brought her in to be a puppet character, because that's a fighting game archetype, but I don't think she does that particularly well, and I don't think the pick aged well either, because at the time, the roster was finalized for 3DS Wii U in 2012. Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 just came out, so maybe she was more popular to kind of justify that, but looking at the decade since, Bowser Jr. easily dwarfs her in popularity and an easy choice to keep over Rosalina. Bowser Jr. appears in basically every spin-off game now, or not every spin-off, every main game now, which I think is more important, every spin-off. He's an incredibly popular Mario character, and I just think it'd be crazy to keep Rosalina over him. People love Bowser Jr. Smash fans don't because, again, they don't play their more recent Mario games, so they don't realize that he's actually grown very popular and people like him. People love Junior, especially his relationship with Bowser. That's always fun to see. And I think that's all the Mario characters. Yes. So, on to Zelda. I'm also going to cut Toon Link, which I know is controversial. People want to keep Toon Link because he represents the animated Zelda series, or the more cartoony art style. But I don't care. I don't like having multiple versions of a character. And I would much prefer having Toon Link's unique moves on Link. I don't think people say, oh, he's got tons of items, tons of things to reference. On the way, you can't just throw it onto Link. I prefer one version of Link on the roster over more. So again, would I rather keep Toon Link? I know Toon Link you could say is more popular, but I'd rather keep Toon Link over, or rather cut Toon Link over Game. I'd rather keep Game and Watch, or Little Mac, Pit, whoever. I don't really care to have multiple links. I'd rather have more unique characters. And speaking of other characters, I think that's all the Zelda characters. So Donkey Kong, I would keep Diddy Kong. He's DK's Luigi in a way, right? He's appeared in every Donkey Kong game. He appears in tons of spin-offs. He's always your player too for Donkey Kong, so I think you got to keep him. There was a reason why he was added before King K. Rool, and as much people want King K. Rool over Diddy, you've got to add first. So next, I guess going to some of the RPG characters, I'm going to cut every single Fire Emblem character except for Ike. I guess, yeah, surprise, surprise, I don't like a lot of these characters. And I just find it hard keeping them when so many of them have the same moveset, or similar-ish enough movesets, and people always try to say, oh, well, they have a new cast every game, that's why you've got to keep adding Fire Emblem characters, and it's like, when did Fire Emblem become, as popular as Pokemon? Pokemon characters get a new character every game because it's Pokemon. Like, are you seriously going to compare the two and say that they're equivalent? Are you dumb? I think keeping one character is fine, and if you really want, just make skins for Ike or whoever. But I just find it very hard to keep so many of these, same. And look at this; they all look the same too. It's very hard to justify keeping all these same characters. I just get sick of seeing like a new Fire Emblem character every game. We get one every DLC, a new one every game, and you look at the sales numbers. I mean, they don't outsell anything. And to justify 8 characters because they have a rotating cast, are you crazy? Just give a rotating cast. I mean, you get tons of characters. What gives Fire Emblem special treatment? I think Sakurai is just very attached to Fire Emblem and wants to make it not fail. Because let's be honest, if these characters were not added into Melee or any Smash Brothers game, Fire Emblem probably would have just died, and we'd never would have. It'd been like this, odd curiosity. These Fire Emblem games. But you can thank Sakurai for keeping the series alive, because he sure is trying his hardest to keep the series alive. So, other character, Shulk. I know the Xenoblade Chronicles games are a growing series, and he's kind of the face of it. I think he's appeared in every game. One of the few series I haven't played the games for. That also means, if you're going to keep him, I'm going to cut these two also because they're 2 characters. Again, I don't like when like for example, they got in over Rex, who was the main character of the game. People say they don't like Avatar characters, but I prefer the main character over these 2. Didn't really care for the pick. Nothing really special about the characters. Should have brought in Rex, and if you're going to none on the roster, I'm not going to keep both. They're kind of a package deal, and I'd rather keep Shulk over these 2. Next in the list, are Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon's an easy keep. He's basically a Smash original character. If you ever saw the behind the scenes, or not the behind the scenes, the development for Smash 64, a lot of those skeletons fighting each other looks like they had Captain Falcon's movesets. So in a way, it's a Smash original. Plus, he's appeared in more Smash Brothers games than F-Zero games, if I remember correctly. Because there's 6 Smash Bros. Games, so I think only 5 F-Zero games. Could be wrong. But the point is, he's appeared in so many games, I think he's like the Smash character. He's got a very fun moveset. So fun. He got it twice. But he has a very fun moveset. Even though he's not very popular, his games don't sell. Well, that's why it's kind of dead. But I think you can justify keeping him around. Ness, I was unsure of. But he's not that popular, as much as people like to say he is. I know he's got a more cult following. And, he inspired Undertale and some other quirky JRPGs, but I guess I'm inclined to keep him unless other more popular characters appeared. And, he has, that also means we're cutting Lucas, obviously, but I guess you can justify keeping Ness. Earthbound's own series, but and I think Sakurai's friends with the director. I mean, just more of, I guess he's there. I guess as we're trimming down the roster, you don't want too many retro characters. That's why I'm going to keep our cut Rob. He's easily my second favorite definitive retro character, if I'm including Rob, Ice Climbers, Duck Hunt, Mr. Game & Watch. Number one, this is kind of the order of how I like them. Rob's, I just prefer Mr. Game & Watch's Stilton moveset. I like the idea of like Rob's a toy coming to life, but I don't want to keep too many retro characters. I mean, we already have, in a way, pseudo-retro characters. You got Pit, Little Mac, Ness, Captain Falcon. You don't want to have too many of them, because as fun as these characters to have, people want, their favorite. Like, they want Olimar, they want Inkling, they want Villager, they want even Fox. They don't want Rob as much. As much as they say they do, they don't. So I'm going to skip third parties for now, but Corn, I think I put Corn. I think you can justify keeping 2 Smash characters. Really should have been in since Brawl, at least. Took him forever to add him in because Soccer City's too big, which is just kind of silly. He's finally in, and I don't think it's worth getting rid of him now. So yeah, I'm going to keep Ridley. I think you can justify 2 Metroid characters. Sure, it's not as big as other characters or other series, but it's a hell of a lot bigger than Fire Emblem. In other series, it's not as big as Splatoon, but who else are you going to pick from Splatoon besides the Inkling? Same thing with Animal Crossing. You could keep Isabelle, but I feel like you could just have a skin over Villager. It kind of does the same thing. Olimar, same thing. You could have skins. Fire Emblem, again, you could have skins. It's just absurd to justify having as many characters as Mario or Pokemon with Fire Emblem. It's such a minuscule series demanding this much attention. It's just absurd. And I guess go through the rest of these guys. Yeah, Palutena, obvious cut. I always thought she was a weird choice to begin with, to be honest. She's, we've had these other, kind of supporting characters that are playable, like Zelda or Peach. Peach has playable appearances, but you're not going to compare Princess Zelda to Palutena. I mean, come on, that'd be absurd. She's only been a support character, and having 2 characters from a game series that's officially dead, I just think is absurd. I know people like Palutena, but this is where I'm trying to be forward-thinking. Is Palutena going to be playable or appear in other games down the line? Probably not, so I don't really feel like you can keep her around. Plus, her whole gimmick too was to show off custom moves, which got axed. I mean, it barely worked in Smash 4, then they get axed in the next game, so her whole gimmick is kind of wasted too. And I guess I'm going to cut the Miis as well. I don't like the idea of custom characters in these kind of crosshair games. Again, the whole appeal is, wow, I get to play as Mario, Kirby, Villager, Inklings, looking at these characters, Pikachu. Then you get to play as your own custom characters, your own OCs. I'm just not as much of a fan. I mean, I know you can add skins to them so you can kind of simulate, I put a, for me, Gunner, I have the Doom guy skin. It's like I'm playing the Doom guy, but I know it's not the same. It's just, at least for me, like, I have some of the skins. It's just not the same. I have to always, because especially the Mii characters too, I have to always think, which moveset do I have? Because I always forget my moveset because, they have so many choices. Yeah, it's just not an addition, a fine addition in my opinion. I get the idea they were going for. I get people like their skins, but I'm just not a fan of it. I prefer real characters over custom characters. So again, I guess these are probably my more controversial picks. I'm going to keep King K. Rool. You could say I'm biased. He's my favorite character in Smash Ultimate. I love the more cartoony characters. I wish there'd more of them than these sword fighters, which you can see why I cut so many of them. But I prefer King K. Rool. I know he hasn't appeared in the new game in a very long time, but again, to be forward-thinking, I'm assuming he will be appearing in games down the line. I'm assuming he will appear in more media. I know Smash Ultimate didn't revive him completely, but that's just the impression I get. I think he's the kind of character that leads to more appearances. Again, like I cut, like for example, Corrin wasn't very popular. You're never going to see Byleth again. You're not going to see Corrin again, except for weird crossovers or cameo appearances. But you will see King K. Rool again. I will count on that. You will see King K. Rool again. These guys, not so much, except for cameos or remakes of their games. Again, I don't really want one-time characters. I want characters that have staying power. Or at least I'm projecting them to have staying power. I forgot about Wii Fit. Same thing with the other characters. I know Wii Fit was very popular at the time, but kind of a jokey character. I just feel like it's very hard to justify Wii Fit Trainer over every other character. I know Wii Fit was incredibly popular, but I just like, do I really want to keep Wii Fit over Captain Falcon or Ness actual characters versus just like your avatar to help you work out? I know you could say I'll replace it with the Ring Fit Trainer, but even then, I feel like that's not the same. So Min Min. I'm going to cut. Just kidding. I'm keeping Min Min. So again, this is where I'm trying to be a little more forward-thinking. She has a very unique moveset, which I think helps her. Should have been Springman, or at least Helix. Helix is the best choice to add to Smash Bros, but should have been Springman because he's the main character, but they added Min Min because Springman was already in the Sis Trophy. Anyway, I'm being forward-thinking because I'm assuming ARMS will get some sequels down the road. Obviously, they haven't gotten a sequel since the game came out in 2017, but the game sold well enough. Got a lot of promotion. I know it was a simpler fighting game. Something weird I've noticed is a lot of Nintendo YouTubers like to dunk on ARMS for some reason, which is very odd because ARMS sold better than basically every Fire Emblem game. I know it was a simple fighting game, but there was more of a, hey, let's try this unique concept. Maybe in a sequel we'll kind of fine polish the concept and fine polish the game. If we ever get a sequel, I'm assuming we will. That's kind of why I'm adding Min Min. I'm assuming you'll see her a lot more down the road and become more of a mainstay. So that's why I'd keep Min Min. Unique moveset. I'd rather keep Min Min over, Lucas or Marth. I mean, come on. Or I'd rather the stretchy arm noodle girl stay over the guy with just another sword. So yeah, I think that's all of our first party characters. Alright, it's Corn. These two. So, third party characters. Just going down the list. Snake. Obvious cut. He was cut for a reason. I know part of it's Konami and they can be, I guess, hot or cold with what they want, but to me, Snake's an easy cut. He's only brought in because he was Sakurai's friends with Kojima, and Kojima recommended him to get into Melee, but couldn't, so he got into Brawl. It's kind of crazy, too. I just think he's a very odd choice. You get this realistic-looking guy who, like, chokes people out and, like, hides in cardboard boxes, and you got, like, Pac-Man fighting with them. But he was the first third party revealed. And originally going to be the only third party in Brawl until they added Sonic late in development. I mean, could you imagine? He was the first third party character. That's just crazy. Like Solid Snake. Very weird character, and I don't like the fact it's kind of like nepotism he got added. Not because people really wanted him, but because, hey, you're my friend, add my character, and wouldn't it be fun to add my character? Very, very odd choice, never cared for him. Sonic, I feel like, is a very easy choice. He's Mario's quote-unquote rival. They appear in tons of crossover games. I mean, I feel like it'd be weird not to have Sonic. He's not a Nintendo character, but he kind of fits like the overall look, right? These more cartoony-looking characters beating each other up. I know people don't like him competitively, but competitive people can suck it. I'm going to skip Mega Man as of right now. I'm going to keep Pac-Man. I know he's kind of in the same boat as, like maybe Little Mac, or these characters. They're more known for their arcade appearance, but they do have modern games that no one really remembers or cares about. So, you could say maybe you shouldn't keep him because he's really just a relic, but it's Pac-Man. Everyone knows Pac-Man. I feel like he's, a huge icon. I feel like he's worth keeping around. At least, yeah, that's why I'm keeping him. So, next on the list, Ryu. I feel like he's another obvious pick. These fighting game characters, he's one of the biggest faces of fighting game characters. I think he's an easy choice to have. That's the reason why he was the first fighting game character added. That being said, that means we're obviously going to cut Ken, going to cut Terry, and going to cut Kazuya. Ken, just because I don't think he can really have an extra... I know he's an Echo, sort of not really, but I just don't think you can justify keeping two Street Fighter characters. I do like Terry more than Ryu, but again, Ryu's like the face of fighting games. Terry, unfortunately, is not. I'd never heard much of Terry before I got added to Smash Bros. Kind of same thing with Kazuya. I know Tekken's very popular. I know it's still going strong, but maybe it's just me, but I think of fighting games, I think of particularly Street Fighter, not Mortal Kombat. I mean, no Mortal Kombat's popular, but I always think of Ryu. Very popular, iconic character. So, to go back down, Mega Man, I would keep. I know his games aren't as popular now, doesn't get as many games, but again, trying to be forward thinking, he's going to appear in games. He still appears in crossovers. I think he's a good enough addition to have. Again, that's try what I go for. I like the character with staying power. I don't want to have a character that's gonna, appear in one game and never appear again. Which is why Cloud is on the chopping block. That means Sephiroth as well. I know Final Fantasy is a very famous game, very popular game. I know people love Cloud, but I'd rather keep. I guess we'll see down the road, but I'd rather keep other characters over him, at least from Square Enix. Especially since how hard they can be to work with. Again, I want characters that have more staying power. I know Cloud, people love Cloud. I always see people cosplaying with the giant Buster Sword. I'd prefer another character over him. And same thing with Sephiroth, famous villain, all that stuff from the game. But if you're going to represent Final Fantasy VII, you'd pick Cloud. And I don't really want two characters from the same one game. I know there's done the remake too, but they're remaking one game into several parts, which I think is kind of cheating. So you can say, well, no, he's appeared in more games, but not really. It's still the same story being retold over multiple parts. Speaking of characters with no staying power, that also means cutting Joker. It sounds like he's only added because Sakurai loved what menus were in Persona. And it's like, well, I guess I want to add Joker now. I remember reading like he loved Persona 5, which is fine. But if, I don't know, you're biased towards Joker, I'm anti-biased. I never played Persona 5, don't really care to. I don't really want to play these weird high school dating sim games. And also that means Banjo-Kazooie as well is going to get the axe. Banjo-Kazooie is one of the I voted for several characters for the Smash ballot. Banjo-Kazooie is one of them. And unfortunately he has to get cut. Again, he's in the same boat as all these other characters. He is really a relic of the N64. I know he appeared in Nuts and Bolts, but no one remembers him for that. They remember him for the 2 games on the N64. So, unfortunately, he's going to get the axe. You're going to keep Banjo-Kazooie along the, on these 4. I mean, it's kind of hard to justify. That being said, I'm going to keep Hero. I pick the more famous costume. I will keep Hero. I know Dragon Quest is insanely popular in Japan. I'm not a big fan of these sword fighter characters, but at the very least, he feels more unique because he has all that RNG nonsense with him. He's got tons of spells, tons of little references added to him. I know it's a Square Enix character, so he's hard to work with, but I like, I like his gimmick, the RNG stuff. That means, no Sora as well. He's getting the axe as well. So he's just insanely popular, and I feel like with these third-party characters, I don't want to just represent popular characters or popular games. I want to represent popular series they represent as well, like Sonic's platforming, arcade games, fighting games, also platformer, JRPGs. I know it's not, you could have multiple, but for me, I kind of want to spread it out too. Obviously, there's 2 different kinds of platformer characters, but they're also just very popular. I don't want too many of the same archetypes, at least I want different character playstyles too, especially when it comes to third party. A little more scrutiny. Because I know I said I'm looking at popularity. Of course, Cloud's more popular than Captain Falcon, but I'm not going to have half the roster be third party characters either. I'm trying to keep a realistic balance, right? So now we're getting down to the wire. So this is, I think I counted, this is 15-15. So to get to 42, I would be here, because remember, I have Pokemon Trainer, so I can have 2 more characters added, and there's 3 more characters to pick from. So obviously, I don't know, it is Bayonetta. So Minecraft is one of the most popular games in the world. Smash fans don't like Steve, not just because of his competitive shenanigans, but also because they never played Minecraft. I have. It's an incredibly fun game. Kids, a lot of Smash fans who make these videos are typically in their 30s and out of touch, don't play games, like I said. They don't understand how popular Minecraft is and how big of a character or big of a franchise Minecraft is. I know Soccer City because Steve was difficult to add to the game, but I think he's a very worthy addition. I think very easy to justify keeping a Minecraft character, especially over over a Snake, over Cloud. Minecraft's more popular. As much as that might hurt your boomer brains, it is. I mean, to also want to keep Simon. I know Castlevania is kind of on the lower end tier of popularity, but I like his movesets. You know, they helped create a genre of games. You could have, again, forward thinking, you could add multiple characters. You know, instead of just Simon and Richter, you could add, I forget the character, Gabriel, and all these other, all the other Belmonts into the game. So I think he's a worthy addition. You know, because people often say too, oh, you have to be on the NES or have an NES game to be on it. I don't think it's entirely true. I want characters with unique movesets. I don't want just kind of the same fighting styles over and over and over again. That's kind of why I cut so many Fire Emblem characters, just swinging your giant sword over and over again. Not very fun. I like the more diversified movesets that I've kept, like Min Min, very unique. No one plays it like Min Min. Better for worse. And also I cut Zora. People often say, oh, how could you cut the winner of the Smash ballot? And that's a half-truth if you think about it for more than 2 seconds. Yes, he won the ballot. Assuming Sakurai's even telling the truth, but also, he won the ballot after every other major popular character had gotten in. Like, you're gonna tell me Sonic wouldn't have beaten him? Pac-Man? Mega Man? Ryu? Steve from Minecraft? I mean, come on, those guys are definitely more popular and would have gotten in over Sora. Plus, I think Sora's easily one of the worst additions to the game as well, because his whole appeal is the fact that his games are a Disney crossover. Who wants a Disney crossover without the Disney characters? I certainly don't, so I don't want Sora in the game. I've always said he's a terrible pick, and I will stand by that. I don't care that he won the ballot. I'm right. My opinion's unbiased. That being said, though, this is my list. If I had to cut the roster in about half, because remember, 83 divided by 2 rounded up is 42. So that's what. And remember, this is what the list would really look like. I'm just trying to tell you that I'm keeping the Pokemon Trainer gimmick as well. I like the switching. So if I were to cut down the roster, this is who I would keep. Again, Echoes don't count either, even though most of these would be gone. These are the characters I would keep, the main characters. Again, trying to think of popular Nintendo characters that are actually popular, not what Smash fans think are popular, but also trying to be forward-thinking. You know, I don't want characters going to look bad 10 years down the road. Like Joker, I see is a pick that's going to age terribly. I never like Rosaline doesn't look as great now. Palutena doesn't look great. Wolf, even though he was kind of an easy clone to add just to pad the roster. Same thing with Falco. Incineroar, I don't think will look as nice. These two definitely won't age as well. So I want characters that are going to be around for a while. You might say this is more obvious picks, and you know, oh, these are obvious, not being, you know, creative. But I want what's obvious. I want, you know, people want to cross over with popular characters, and you should give it to them. Don't be a you don't understand how to think it, right? I feel like people try to outthink these things or overthink these things too. Like maybe people would actually like this more. This would surprise people. I'm not really trying to surprise people. I'm trying to do what I think makes the most sense. If I was given the task of, for some reason, cutting the roster and keeping only veterans and keeping a small percentage of, you know, whatever. Anyway, this is my list. And this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where every opinion is biased except ours. Bye.